Doctor Who Season by Season. Season 25 Review. Season 25 was broadcast in 1988 and marked, as the name suggests, the 25th anniversary of Doctor Who. It was the second season to star Sylvester McCoy as the Seventh Doctor and have Andrew Cartmel as script editor, the eighth season to be produced by John Nathan Turner, and the first full season to star Sophie Aldred as new companion Ace after her introduction in the closing story of the previous season. 1988 saw Doctor Who at a crossroads. The mid-80s had not been kind to the series, with a very public spat between the production team and BBC management, who clearly had lost interest in the programme and would really rather have been rid of it. The press reaction to the series had also changed from sympathy during the initial 1985 hiatus crisis to one of increasing hostility in 1986 and 1987, and behind-the-scenes crises and rushed productions had resulted in seasons 23 and 24 coming across as decidedly subpar, even if the latter had shown some signs of creative recovery. Happily season 25, with the production team given an early recommission and the chance to have the proper time in which to make the series, unlike the case with the previous year, would capitalize on those signs in a big way and be the best season since the show's troubles hit the headlines 3 years earlier with season 22 in 1985. The season begins with Remembrance of the Daleks, and it is immediately apparent that those making the series have swung back with a newfound sense of confidence. Everything about Remembrance of the Daleks screams of chutzpah, from the immediately striking pre-credits sequence, only the fourth time this had been done in the show and the first time it was done for anything other than a post-regeneration story or anniversary special. Remembrance is a kick-ass action classic that remains hugely popular to this day, coming in the top 10 in the recent DWM poll 50 years poll. And while I prefer a couple of other McCoy stories, I'm not about to dispute that. It's an awesome story. Also immediately apparent is the chemistry between Sylvester and Sophie as the new TARDIS team, and that the Seventh Doctor himself has undergone something of a rethink in terms of characterization. It's not a complete overhaul, but the Seventh Doctor of this season, while retaining humor and charm, immediately comes across a considerably more cunning, manipulative and darker character than was the case with the largely entirely whimsical figure he was in his first season. The new production team was settling in along with its new regular cast, and starting to kick ass and take names. If Remembrance was a traditional Dr. Kick-Dalek-ass tale done in a very modern and exciting manner, the second story of the season was a rather quirkier affair. The Happiness Patrol, set in a world where sadness has been outlawed and is punishable by execution, with a chief executioner who's a robot made of sweets, divided fans at the time and still manages to do so today, even though after 10 years of a new series where fat monsters fall off of people's tits, forest fairies can bring missing little girls back to life and the moon turns out to be an egg. The Happiness Patrol seems positively staid by comparison. I've always liked the Happiness Patrol, I have to admit. It's a fun, entertaining and surreal little story, buoyed by a stunning and incredibly appropriate music score from Dominic Glynn, who's clearly been possessed by the spirit of Danny Elfman while scoring a Tim Burton movie, and the regulars are again wonderful, within barely a handful of episodes becoming the best TARDIS team seen in the series since the halcyon days of Tom and Lalla. My main criticism of this story is that the last episode seems a little bit rushed, but then this is the problem when your seasons have been cut nearly in half and at least it's still longer than 45 fucking minutes. The next story of the season is Silver Nemesis. Officially this is the 25th anniversary story, though these days fandom appears to have taken that title and sort of unofficially given it to Remembrance instead, seemingly on the grounds that they like that one but don't like this. Okay then. To be honest, there is little doubt that Silver Nemesis is definitely the weakest of the season by some way, and yet I find the bile and hatred of it thrown at it by some quarters bizarre. This spectacular bile even includes by the DVD producers whose stunning professionalism was displayed by them not including the special extended edition of this story that was released on VHS in the 90s on the DVD on the grounds that they just couldn't be asked. Well, thanks for that then. One can only hope their bank managers didn't cash their checks that week, on the grounds that they couldn't be asked either. Like I said, Silver Nemesis is definitely the weakest of the season, but it's still largely entertaining and fun to watch, with some decent action, good performances and some very funny scenes. I've always laughed my ass off at the Mrs. Remington stuff and will kick the crap out of anyone who disagrees. I surely will, honey, I surely will. The final story of the season is The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, which if Nemesis was a slight dip is a great return to winning form and my second favorite of the season after Remembrance. The Seventh Doctor, as charmingly sadistic as ever, takes Ace to an intergalactic circus despite her being shit scared of clowns. What a wag that fellow is. Sadly his jolly jape at her expense goes tits up when these clowns and indeed the whole circus turn out to really be evil, and enjoy forcing all visitors to perform in the ring where they are then brutally murdered when they inevitably fail to entertain the family audience enough. Wow, tough crowd. Greatest Show is a wonderfully sinister story from Stephen Wyatt, who wrote Paradise Towers the previous season, but who benefits here from a much better production and direction which captures the blackly comic but also creepy and dark tone that he's going for rather better than was the case the year before. The fact that Greatest Show is, at heart, essentially a deliciously dark parody of the television industry, let's not forget. The acts here are effectively axed when their ratings from said family audience aren't high enough. Wow, metaphor much? Season 25 is a great season. The 25th anniversary seems to soften the press's hostile attitude to the show of the previous 2 years, and even despite being again placed in the death slot opposite Coronation Street, at that point still getting 20 million or more viewers per week, managed the best ratings since season 22, with the final episode of Greatest Show hitting a peak at 6.6 million. With a happy production team and cast, more warmth from the press, increasingly good ratings and a fanbase that was also generally much more happy with this season than the previous one, a BBC management with brains not located in their anal region might have thought it a good idea to reward the series with, if not more episodes, at least a better time slot the following season. Instead they ultimately elected to axe the show before even a single episode of season 26 had aired on television, and then deliberately gave the 1989 season fuck all publicity in order to have the poor ratings excuse. If you'll pardon my French, what a bunch of fucking cunts. But all that is another story. Season 25 saw the show regaining its sense of purpose and its confidence after a rough couple of years, and it remains one of my favorites, coming in at number 10 on my all-time top 10 list. Season 25 gets an A- from me.